Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to our webinar on navigating the future of ITIL 4. We are very excited to have New Horizons instructor Danny Gowan here to help us explore the evolving landscape of ITIL 4. Before we get started, we do encourage questions throughout the webinar, so please use the question section of your Zoom dashboard. And if we don't get to them during the presentation, we will have a short Q&A at the end, and then we will also be sharing a copy of this recording with you, so keep an eye on your inbox. And with that, I will now hand it over to Danny.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tiffany. It's good to be here. As Tiffany said, my name's Danielle Gowan, but I go by Danny. Our topic today is navigating the future of ITIL 4, a roadmap to transformative IT. That might mean different things to each of you, but what's happening in the real world is why another view ITIL needed to take to bring to you the most current best practices because of digital transformation, because of how everything runs on technology today. So here we go. Let's take a look at what we're going to be discussing. The holistic big picture of ITSM, IT service management, is our industry. It's what we do. We're service providers. So I'll start with the big picture, and then we're going to forget about the big picture, and we're going to build that big picture. So we're starting with one slide, and we're ending with the same slide. And then we'll talk about the learning paths and what ITIL has available to you. And if you're working in IT, you are already on your ITSM transformational journey, whether you think you are or not, because you're already doing the work of IT. And I'm sure you're looking at assessing and trying to figure out what else can we do better. So we'll have questions, as Tiffany said, also at the end. All right, so the ITIL 4 big picture looks like this. Wow, that's complex, right? It really is complex. There's quite a bit on this screen. And rather than look at this and try to dissect it, we're going to start with nothing and build this model out so you could see what it's all about. In reality, what ITIL 4 is helping us understand is that there are many, many, many things that are incorporated into what we do day in and day out besides technologies alone. And if you've been in the industry for a little while, like I have for about 30 years, working in it and also educating people on different best practices for part of it, you know that to be all too true, that when we focus excessively on the technologies only, we drop the ball and somehow our service suffers, customers complain. So we have to take a holistic approach. That's the bottom line. You have many, many, many things that you're doing extremely well. And I'm sure you also have pain and suffering that needs to be addressed. So by studying ITIL 4, especially, there are opportunities to better understand that mixture and the synergy and the dynamics of how everything works together. So we start off by looking at, we have people, hey, all of you and others, we have people with skills, competencies, organizational structure, which helps us to take on roles and responsibilities of work of different types. So the people are really the backbone. I love the fact that the ITIL 4 authors have decided that let's start the model with the people, because you are the basis of getting things done and helping your company succeed, which is what the point is on the far right. It's not about what we do, it's the benefits of the results of what we do. And our work allows us to offer products and services, yet the point being that we have to take our resources, people and other things like technologies, relationships with outsourced parties. We often have people on contract. We buy products externally. We get skills externally. We have cloud service providers, maybe tool vendors. We have many, many, many people from outside. And we also have processes that we operate and run. And so we have to cultivate all of our resources, people, process, outsource parties, which we usually refer to in ITIL as partners and suppliers. And we have to put our processes together in a way for operational excellence. And the way you do that on the left is because of the products that your business needs in your product portfolio. So all organizations have resources that need to be configured to create products that offer value to potential consumers. Now, consumers are inside of your company and or externally. Your business is consumers of their products and services because our products are their products and services. So then we can expand the model to think about the service portfolio and who the consumers are. Consumers will utilize these products and services to achieve some kind of outcome or objective. And in ITIL 4, we have different volumes of publications of the best practices. And the goal is that you're offering the products and services that best suit and meet the needs of your consumer. If there's a demand, then the opportunity to build something is high. If it's only going to serve a small market, laws of economics, right? Obviously, that may not be a good investment. So in the current version of ITIL, we cover everything. We have digital and IT strategy at a strategic leader level. We have a strategist way to look at how to measure and assess gaps and things of that nature. There's some specialist volumes, and then there's even practitioner level courses available now. So when you are in the trenches, and I'm not sure what kind of roles you have here, but if you want to fire off in the chat, and maybe Tiffany can let me know in a minute, what kind of function are you performing in your company? Are you an executive, a director, a senior leader, a team lead? Do you do some kind of technical work? Are you on the service desk? Just tell us in the chat what your job role or function is. Assuming that we are offering the right products and services to meet the consumer needs, that's part of what's discussed in ITIL. And then this is an interesting point, co-creating value. And I'm going to use one of my own real world examples, kind of go off the slide for a minute, but you have to understand enough about who your consumers are to actually be clear on whether or not they perceive that value is present when they utilize the service. Now, if they're internal consumers in your own inside enterprise business units, that's a lot easier to get the feedback. If your products and services are maybe being offered through your website where people can get insurance quotes or apply for a job with your company or schedule an appointment or get information, you don't necessarily know those masses of people, personally. So that becomes harder to understand at the point of consumption and use. What's the perception of those people? Large companies like hospitality industry, travel, big retail organizations where they're selling products online, they have a lot of 5-star review type opportunities and they can learn feedback that way. So we're in a really complex situation today, and ITIL takes us through that complex journey. Tiffany, what kind of folks do we have in the room? Did you get any feedback? Oh, I see it. So we got a project manager, service desk manager, IT operations. Love it, love it, love the mix. Excellent. Put your type of work, audit, systems admin, third level, IT analyst. Love it. Yeah, and this is great. IT service desk consultant. Good morning. Yeah, excellent. Anybody else want to share what their job role or function is? So, that I asked that question for a reason. You're a student? Good. Hey, welcome. I'm glad that you're so proactive. And before you even begin your career, you're looking out there to see what's going on. That's great. Records manager, all of you, regardless of what your function or title are, you're a part of this model. And the better we all understand the holistic picture, the better off we end up in the long run for your company. Systems manager. Have I met any of you before? Do I look familiar? Have you been in any of my classes? I know sometimes people come to webinars who are already our students. Okay, well, for those of you who put your job function in the chat, thank you very much. Gives me a little more insight of who we're working with here. First time, thank you, Alina. Oh, that's a pretty name. Alina, I'm probably not saying it right, but yeah, okay, great, Jacqueline. Yeah, so keep interacting in the chat. I'm going to go back to the presentation. I'm going to share a little example, real world with you. So a couple of years ago, I wanted to schedule a doctor's appointment. So I did what I normally do. I usually go on the phone and somebody picks up and I schedule my appointment live in a phone conversation. So you know what happens when you're on hold, they entertain you. I expect it to be on hold, so that was not an issue. They play music, you know, makes you relax while you're waiting, all that good stuff. And then every so often the recording would stop and this message would come on and it said something like this. Did you know that you can now schedule an appointment directly on our website at blah, 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 blah. And then the music and then the message. So I thought, okay, I'll try it. So this is an example of a digital product, right? Or service, you might call it a scheduling service. So I go over to the website on my laptop and I'm like, oh, this is great. Says it right here, clickety click, asks me a few questions. Then a calendar comes up. Please select the date you would like for your appointment. Very friendly, very easy. Clicked on my date, select the doctor from this list, clicked on my doctor. I'm like, oh, this is terrific. I'll be able to hang up the phone, right? And then the next message that came up was to schedule an appointment with Dr. Blank, the doctor I selected, please call this phone number. So basically the same phone number I originally called. And I went, huh. So I wasn't upset because I didn't hang the phone up. And I'm like, well, gee, maybe it's not working or something. So I got online. She answered the phone and I scheduled my appointment. Now I said to the gal at the doctor's office, by the way, I tried your online scheduling service and I got this message that said I had to call the phone. And she said, oh, that's because your doctor is not taking any new patients. I said, oh, okay, thank you. And I hung up. Now, of course, I'm thinking about this because this is what I do for a living. And I'm like, well, they designed it backwards. It probably functions really well. I'm sure if I picked a different doctor, I would get through and might have had all kinds of bells and whistles. It might have sent me a text acknowledgement, probably would send me appointment reminders, right? But they designed it for the people that don't need it. They designed it for the new patients instead of the returning patients. Let's face it, we all work in IT. We know how this goes. They already collected my information. They could easily build the system to check in the back end whether or not I'm a returning patient and allow me to go through to the other screens to finalize my scheduling. That's what we mean by co-creating value. We have to actually listen to that kind of feedback. Now, if that organization is top-notch, any feedback they get from any sources would funnel to some kind of a quality desk or continual improvement inside or outside of IT. These things would be acknowledged and they would be brought in to redesign and improve the service to what? To increase the value. It's not about the technologies alone being up and running. It's about, did we design the right thing the right way for the right reason? And do the people who consume it feel the same way about it? So this is why ITIL is so critically important, because it's shifting our focus in the modern workplace with ITIL 4 to go beyond just the delivery of the products and the services, which is also very important, and get feedback. That's very important. So the next slide gives you their own example here from, it's a banking app, and there's a customer. Maybe they want to get access to their account or perform some kind of, specific actions. Maybe they want to transfer money or do something else. So obviously the mobile banking mobile banking app is a type of product which then is delivering a service, which is the ability for the customer, or that's a type of consumer, the customer, you could call them customer, to be able to achieve some kind of a goal or an outcome or an objective. So that the bank has a reason to provision this to the customer. The customer has a reason to use it because they need to manage their account or perform some kind of transactions in a digital manner. So these digital products are giving us a little bit of angst in the modern world for a number of reasons. The fact that getting feedback is not always that easy. Keeping it secure, we know security compliance is a big aspect of it, as well as, retaining customers, giving your company, in this case, the bank, or in my example, the doctor's office, a competitive advantage. If one company has a mobile banking app, all of them need them, and they better work well, and they better serve the needs from the point of view of the customer, or you're not really doing service management. So ITIL 4 addresses all of this in various ways. You actually have to know where to build your opportunities, invest money into your services at the strategic level. At the tactical level, we make it all happen. At the operational level, we're taking care of everything that we've created, and we're ensuring that feedback and information is shared back upstream accordingly. Otherwise, we could fall apart and lose our competitive advantage, not retain our customers, or suffer some kind of, be in the news media for some kind of negative fallout, perhaps, on your company, damage your reputation and so on. So in this model on the upper right, what we've added is basically other stakeholders. I'll use another example. Let's say that you're a grocery store chain and your company does not currently have any online grocery ordering and home delivery service, but they want to add that. So they go to get a web site developed so that it will be able, end shoppers, the consumers, the shoppers, will be able to put their orders in, pay for them, and the delivery will get scheduled. Now, this is not only going to affect a website. How will the grocery store operate differently to be able to fulfill that business service? So we have to go all the way out and around and think about, well, how will the orders, once the order is placed, probably building the website is the easiest part of the whole thing. Once the website is built and people can create accounts, purchase their groceries in the shopping cart, check out, and we confirm payment, what happens then? There's more business processes that have to happen. Who's going to get notified? How are the orders going to get pulled from the shelves? How will they get staged? How will the cold and the freezer food be kept cold? What's the delivery side? Is that going to be ready by the time that the website goes live? And any piece of that supply chain with all those different stakeholders that is not considered at the point of design and go live with the website, we're going to have problems. Because the business goal, the real outcome, the point of value is really when a homeowner who did online shopping receives their groceries and it's accurate and correct and on time. That's what your product is doing. So you have to consider the whole business service around the product and not just the product itself. So when ITIL 4 says a holistic view. They really meet a holistic view. All the different courses, all the different publications, in other words, factor this kind of thinking in. And the measurements need to be broader. And the real point of value is not that the website is up and running and that it's taking orders. It's whether or not it's serving those shoppers the way they want to be served on the web, as well as the service itself to get the groceries into their hands. Okay, so we also have some things that ITIL talks about that gives us something to work with. So, hey, this is great in theory, we understand this, but how can we work with this, you know? So over on the left, they're saying that you also have things that are happening around you. Biggest, you know, one that we lived through recently, the pandemic. But, you know, there's also economic difficulties in the world, like interest rates are high right now. You know, it could be if everybody's employed, it's hard to get somebody to fill an opening. And there's always things going on, weather events, you know, global changes, things that are happening with economics and whatnot. So ITIL even addresses what they call PESTEL. It's actually was called PESTEL before ITIL addressed it, but ITIL authors are people like us who have worked in the world at levels where they have seen what's working best. They're a collaborative team that comes together with Axelos, the official owners of the product of ITIL publications. And so they bring in a lot of business and industry stuff from what we know in business management. This is not stuff that only affects IT, it affects your whole company. So the PESTEL influencers that we have to be aware of that could impact our ability to actually deliver products and services correctly and to the benefit of the consumers might be political, economical, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors. Now, how does that affect what we do have direct control over, which are these 4 dimensions, they're called? That's coming, I think. Let's see. There we go. So organizations and people, we started our diagram with that. We talked about people, right? We talked about organization and people resources. That's an area of what makes up our business systems, which is really kind of what we're studying here, the business of IT. We have the people and organizations that we control and manage, who we have, what professional development plans, how we operate in our culture within our people, value streams and processes. Processes are fundamental. People perform work through process. Sometimes it's automated with information and technology, and sometimes we're doing work with outside partners and suppliers. So the ITIL framework has provided us a means by which to recognize that which makes for operational excellence, these 4 dimensions, and that these are the resources that we're building our products and services from. If we don't manage these, and they do have synergy, they affect each other. You know, if I'm going to buy a new tool like GitHub or something, somebody's got to know how to work with that tool, and we have to build a relationship with the supplier. Well, that might be open source, but you know, let's say you're bringing in ServiceNow, a service management tool. So people in your organization have to understand why you're doing that, what they need to know about it, and who's going to directly interact with it. And then we've got the information and technology itself that is ServiceNow. It has to be set up and integrated with what you're already using. And then you're working with a vendor, or what ITIL would call a supplier. And what the tool's going to help you do is run your processes. So if we're not thinking about all 4 of these dimensions, we're going to be in trouble. Just like when we design an online grocery ordering service, if you're a grocery chain, you got to think about all the things that have to integrate and work together. It's very different in today's world. I lived through the days of IT when it was simple, and I watched it evolve, and the best practices have kept pace. We've had these best practices of ITIL since the late 80s, well over 4 decades. And they've kept fresh because the times around us are changing. And now that we're at the point of digital business, digital companies, digital organizations, we better reinvent ourselves and make sure that we're doing the right things with the business the correct way to empower and get the value for the end consumers, the products and services and the value. So this is something else that's offered in the model. Let's see. So again, thinking about like a mobile app, like a banking app, service management on the left side, ITSM, IT service management, is the subject of ITIL. This holistic view of everything it takes to make the service and products integrated into the services to operate correctly for your company's departments and products and services that they offer. So we've got to think about data, security, skills, people, knowledge, tools, technologies, partners, compliance, contractual obligations, and so on and so forth. So there could be many, many things inside of your organization and out that are effectively a part of your management oversight. It's a more broader stretch today than ever before. It used to be we did information and technology, which meant we had applications to help the business run certain transactions, and the data from the transactions, customer information, sales information, whatever your company does, was stored. And that was our job. We stored things, we ran apps. Now it's like we are the business with the business. So the model is broader. So ITIL 4 has brought us to where we can envision this way. On the lower left, all of it is geared towards what's referred to as a service value system. So the model that represents IT in ITIL is this service value system. So what it is a business needs certain products and services. So those are opportunities for us to ensure that we create and deliver and support what is appropriate for those needs. And on the far side, it's that concept of consumer use and point of value and perception of an outcome and a benefit to them. So if I want to schedule a doctor's appointment, the benefit to me and the outcome is I've scheduled a doctor's appointment and it's been confirmed and acknowledged. If I want to order groceries, the outcome is I got the groceries I wanted. I didn't have to go to the store and pick them up. They're delivered to my doorstep on time, in good shape. It's the accurate order. Those are outcomes. If any of those don't happen, your value goes down. So we're not only focusing on technologies. In order to create an organization today that can work this way in IT, ITIL provides what's called guiding principles. They remind you that you have to tie what you're doing and how you're doing it into the governance at the highest levels of the company, because there are policies there on what you're allowed to do and not do, and there's security compliance and audit controls and other things. So part of our value system has to be total alignment to that governance. They have something called the value chain activities that we'll see in a moment. There are today 34 different practices. We used to call them processes. There still are processes within the practice, but the process has to be enabled through skills, people, technologies, automation, sometimes working with outside providers, getting inputs and outputs from other processes. So we call it a practice. We put the process in practice, whether it's incident management, change enablement, service level management, availability capacity. We put the work processes into practice. It's not enough just to have a process design. We have to make the process work. So that's a broader definition as well. And then continual improvement. You know, continual improvement is how you run a company, a business. It's how you run IT. If you're not assessing and measuring the right things, and you're not focused on the points of value, like it says over here on the far right, you might be chasing down the wrong improvements that don't make any sense. So another part of the holistic view is that we have a service value system in IT that we can sort of guide us. And this is what ITIL breaks down for you in the foundation training, for example. Now, if I blow up that service value chain in the center of the service value system, this might look a little more familiar. So we have activities, they call them, like plan, improve, not necessarily in any specific order. These are going on right now as you're in this webinar in your company. I'm sure there's some kind of planning going on, some kind of data analysis of measurements and reports and identifying gaps and improvement opportunities, engaging, building relationships with stakeholders, people, engaging with people to ask questions, to listen, learn, understand what the needs of the business are, and other ways. We do a lot of design and transition work, obtain, build, buying things from vendors, or doing it ourselves. You know, whether it's configuring a firewall or, you know, developing in-house software. And then, of course, deliver and support the live production environment where we're monitoring things. Excuse me for a second. Okay. Where we're monitoring things and doing incident management, problem management, helping our users learn things, and so on. All of those activities are more like an operating model inside of the service value system. How well you do this is going to be fundamental to the effect on your consumer. And, you know, sometimes we have great intentions, but that's not what we produce. Like the doctor scheduling service. You've alienated the current patients of Dr. So-and-so instead of providing a convenient service to them as well as everybody else that gets to use it. So we don't always design well. Sometimes we don't know what we should know, and therefore our engaging and relationships are not in the proper place. So this is also a piece that we speak to in the ITIL 4. The big picture, the holistic view. Another thing that's critically important is called value streams. If you've studied lean principles and practices, like from the Toyota production services, they basically looked at streams of work with specific outcomes and then backed into what processes need to be tweaked to make that outcome better. That's the point of value streams, value stream mapping as sort of like a business approach or tool. Over a decade ago with ITIL, and I've been involved with ITIL, by the way, since version 2 in 2001, in the real world and in educating people on it. And I've got all the certifications that come with that. It's a lot of tests, but well worth it. The idea like a decade ago with our processes like incident management, change management, problem management, to name a few, we would look at a single process and we would say, how well is it working? Which is a good thing to do. And then we would try to improve that process. And once in a while, we'd say, well, the process needs inputs from configuration management databases and monitoring output need to come in when we have an incident. And we're producing incident records and where do those go? But it was a very narrow focus. Today, ITIL 4 has offered us a modernized approach that makes a lot more sense because we might be wasting a lot of time when we look at siloed processes. Siloed processes are no more an advantage than siloed people by function, both of which are discouraged in ITIL 4 and do not, in essence, work in the modern workplace of today. So value streams are cutting across these value chain activities in different ways, like, delivering a new service component. What's in that stream of work? Where does the work happen? In what process? What do we need to specifically fix to make more value in delivering a new service component? Or maybe it's a different stream, customer support and how that works. So we could start with these value chain activities in a stakeholder group within IT, but with sometimes others like department people in your company and vendors. And then you could break it down into the specific areas in need of improvement. Whereas if we start at the bottom with a single process, it may or may not be applicable to increasing the value. Just doing work for the sake of saying, hey, I matured my process to a 4.0 on a scale of 5, and it used to be a 2.5, isn't necessarily creating any value for anyone. It's just, you said, hey, I matured my process. If you want to maximize value, which is the point today, we don't have the luxury of time on our side. We literally are trying to do things faster and better because all these digital products and services that are running, when they need to change, we need to get that in place. We don't have 12-month projects to put a new version of a website out or a software product. So value stream mapping and management is another layer of the ITIL 4 for added value. So the value streams may help you manage products, services, and even relationships, which all factors into better value on the far right of the diagram. Now, I've done a lot of talking. I got a couple more things to share with you. Well, welcome to the future. We are in the future. We are living yesterday's future. A decade ago, ITIL looked different. Actually, about 3 or 4 years ago, it looked different. They realized what was going on and they paper up a new version for you. So the opportunities to learn in ITIL are abundant. There are different levels of learning. You could take individual courses, but for anybody new to ITIL here, you would start with the ITIL Foundation. Is there anyone here who's already certified on ITIL 4 in any of the courses? Let us know in the chat. Once you do complete ITIL 4 Foundation, that's the only prerequisite to go on and pick and choose what else might be important to you and your company. These white boxes on the top where it says create, deliver, support, drive stakeholder value, high velocity IT, direct, plan, and improve, and digital and IT strategy are the same titles as the volumes of the ITIL best practice publications that are put out by Axelos. They each have a certification course and an exam and a credential, a certificate that you get that proves that you're knowledgeable about these disciplines that I've given you a little bit of insight into. If you get groupings of certifications on the right side here, like let's go to the far right where it says strategic leader, foundation, direct, plan, and improve, and digital and IT strategy. You'd have those 3 certifications, plus upon getting the 3rd one in that group, you would be recognized as an ITIL strategic leader. That shows that you've done a lot of study in the leadership side. If you want to be important in helping your company roll out ITIL, adopt it and adapt it and use it more and more and more, you might be interested in the managing professional. So if you achieve the foundation, which is a prerequisite, the create, deliver, support, the drive stakeholder value, the high velocity IT, and that same one that applies to the strategic leader, if you also have that direct, plan, and improve, upon getting the 5th one in any order, you're now dubbed a managing professional. That's like the equivalent of under version 3, what we used to call an ITIL expert. I've had every certification all the way up from bottom to top in version 2, 3, and 4, and it's well worth the effort to study it. The literature itself that is ITIL, the publications, it's about 3,000 pages of documentation. That's a lot of information. You know, if you've ever studied like the PMI's Project Management Institute's PMBOK, Body of Knowledge, that's about a 500-page book. We've got 3,000 pages of stuff in ITIL, and that's why there's so many different paths and courses. Now new, just this year, on the left side, this ITIL Practice Manager certifications have come out. I'm actually credentialing myself right now, you know, to be able to deliver those. And there's groups of practices like this monitoring, support, and fulfill. If you go down to the bottom, that would include the topics of service desk, incident management, problem management, service request management, monitoring, and event management, 5 process/practice areas. It's you get that certification, you would be called a monitor, support, and fulfill certificate. If you have that and the create, deliver, and support, you'd be called a practice manager. So there are huge opportunities now to not only get the high level understanding of managing professional and or strategic leader, but there's grassroots courses for everybody at the practice level. And then these are different groups. So plan, implement, control, collaborate, assure, improve, and you could see the lists that go there. They also have some individual certifications out to the left, which does not require ITIL Foundation for the acquiring and managing cloud and the sustainability and digital. But you see the black bar foundation is a prerequisite for business relationship management and IT asset management. But also note that both of those are included in these groupings. So these groups of practices are 3-day courses, or they can be delivered in a customized format as 1-day individual, and you can put your own combination together out of this list and have one taught in a 1-day format. So 3,000 pages of documentation. Let me see if people are new to ITIL. All right, so Marcus, you know ITIL, and Alana is studying it currently. Congratulations. We have Christopher, who's at the foundation level. And the foundation level does give you an overview of some of the things that I mentioned here. But the point is this: what is your ITSM transformation? Where is your company? What's needed to help them move forward? How are they doing continual improvement on their ITIL journey? Why are they doing it? Number one reason is why. Why are you trying to do something different? If that's understood and the culture is collaborative, you'll progress much further. So the more people that understand the big picture, the holistic view, it takes all the elements to work together to be successful. All right, so Tiffany, back to you. What kind of questions have come in, if any?
So thank you so much, Danny. That was a lot of information. We've got a couple questions, but let's give some people some time. Feel free to type it either in the chat or in the question and answer. One is, how does ITIL align with other project management practices like Agile, Scrum?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. The 34 practice areas that are recognized in our industry today include project management, business analysis. So in the books of the ITIL library, we talk quite a bit about other approaches like DevOps or PMI or Prince or Agile or Scrum, you know, as a method for a project. So the service management, I always look at it as the base upon which everything else is built. And those other disciplines are choices for you to use in your project management practice or in other practice areas within service management. They're a choice. That's how I would frame it up.
Great. Another one is, what are some common challenges that organizations face when implementing ITIL?
Ah, that's a really good one. I know that right off the top of my head. Culture. The culture in the organization will hold you back. If it requires a collaborative culture, and a lot of companies are still today functionally organized where their org chart looks like this and they've got the reporting structures, and that's fine, but the way you operate needs to be different. So even if you're structured that way on your org chart where there's lines of authority, that works for some things like, getting time off, maybe figuring out a professional development plan. But in essence, the way you operate day in and day out needs to be very cross-functional. And we need to have a culture of trust, a culture of transparency. Leaders need to have the same culture as well as everybody else. It's not just for the grassroots people, it's for everybody, technical, non-technical. Throughout IT, we need this very comprehensive, synergistic, easy to work together to solve problems, to figure out the automation, to reinvent the processes so that we can automate them, to improve, to prioritize improvements, to do value stream mapping. We have different approaches today.
Great. Would each practice area have its own service value chain, or is there one SVC that all practices take part in, or is it a little bit of both?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. It's actually a single service value chain to look at any area within IT, technical or non-technical, whatever the value stream is about. And it's within many practices that you're doing those value chain. Let me just describe this a little bit better. So if we go back here for a minute, let me go back to this slide here. See here, new service component being added. We're provisioning customer support. Could be a stream for onboarding a new employee successfully. You'll start with the value chain activities of engage, plan, improve. What order do we do them in? And then you would break it down. So if we start with engagement, what's the relationships we currently have? Who are the key stakeholders? You'd be doing that kind of thing. So you might be in business relationship management or project management when you're doing that. Then you look, that's what you start with the value chain, and you look down to the practices where engagement is taking place. Maybe it's service level management or a combination of all three. Then if we're not developing good relationships and we don't understand the true customer requirements for, let's say, a new service component, that's where we got to target. So let's build better relationships in service level management when we're running projects, when we're doing literally relationship management as a practice, maybe even at the service desk, you need to get better feedback and get engagement with customers differently, whether it's done with tools and chat or whether it's done on the phone. So yeah, that's a great question. And in the foundation training, there is a component where they discuss this, the relationship. It's discussed even better in the create, deliver, and support volume after foundation class.
That's going to tee me up for my next question, Danny. What advice would you give someone who has the ITIL 4 foundations on their next steps and deciding on which path to take?
Yeah, I like that too. Okay, so let's go back and look at that crazy slide with all this stuff. Now, if you need these classes and you don't see them on our public calendar, it doesn't mean we're not able to offer them. So you need to get with your company's New Horizons ambassador, whoever that is, or contact us through our website and state. Now, if you, let's see, so it depends on what you currently do and what your aspirations are for the future. So let's say you're a support professional. I would do ITIL Foundation and both the monitoring support and fulfill and the create, deliver, and support. So this white one on the bottom and the top one in the practice manager piece. That would make you a practice manager. Why would I select that for support professional? Look on the lower left, because it's service desk, incident, problem, things that you're interacting with on a regular basis. If you're more in asset management, release, deployment, then you'd pick the middle one. And if you're more in higher level customer facing roles like service owner, product owner, relationship manager, you might be interested in the collaborate, assure, improve. But I'm not saying that any role couldn't benefit from taking these, since we said next steps. Now, let's say that you're more in a leadership position, you're a manager or above. If you're high level leadership, I would certainly send you to the strategic leadership side. Usually people who are director level and above, but you could also have a manager title. It depends on how your company positions those job titles. Usually they want people who have about 3 years of managerial experience in those classes, but we don't exclude people. The direct plan and improve is relevant to both the right strategic leadership path and the managing professional, but this would involve working at high levels like strategic. So those of you who feel that you want to be there in the future or are there now with the role that you have in the company, you should work on that. And then the managing professional, I feel, is like the catch-all for almost anybody. You could decide, let's say you are a DevOps organization or you're doing a lot of agile software development. I think you'd benefit from just the single course of high velocity IT if you don't want to take multiple courses and end up a managing professional. If you're more in the sales part of the organization or exploring what the products and services should be, or analyzing feedback from customers on the current products and services of IT, I would say the drive stakeholder value. And then direct plan and improve is a lot about measurement and continual improvement. So if you think that applies to you, that would be a good fit. I hope that helps people understand a little bit better.
Great. I also dropped a link to all of those classes. I know someone had asked for it a little earlier. And we were very excited to have you all join. Danny, thank you so much. This is great information. And like I said, we will be sending a recording of this. So keep an eye on your inbox. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Eat, sleep, sweat, bleed, and breathe ITIL like me, and you can't go wrong. Have a good time out there. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, everybody.